They took it out, examined it under the microscope. They were talking Hebrew a mile a minute, and they looked at me and they said, Mr. Wyatt, this human blood only has 24 chromosomes in it. Everybody else has 46. You see 23 from your mother, 23 from your father, 22 autosomes from your mother, 22 autosomes from your father. You get an X from your mother, you may get an X or a Y from your father. This blood had 23 chromosomes from the mother's side, one Y chromosome only. So all of his physical characteristics were determined by his mother's side of the family. His maleness was determined by this one Y that came from the source, not a human male. Then they said, this blood is alive. And then they said, whose blood is this? I said, it's the blood of your Messiah.
Well, hello and welcome to the Tin Foil Hat Club. I'm Kyle.
And I'm Ben.
And thank you for joining us yet again. Well, Ben, it's been an exciting few weeks here for us at the Old Foil. So I guess when you guys hear this, will actually be 2 weeks from today.
Yeah.
Or 2 weeks from tomorrow. A week from tomorrow. Something like that.
I don't know.
Yeah, it'll be in the future, but hopefully you guys enjoyed our first few video podcasts, our video versions. So in the future, you'll be able to listen. You'll be able to watch. You can get the foil any way you want.
That's right.
Is that the Journey song? Any way you want it. That's the way you got it.
Yeah,
get it?
That's true.
Any way you want it. All right. Anyway, so we're gonna do some things too to make sure that we are out there on every platform that we can get out there on, because we have faced, and I know this might shock some of you, and some of you may have already seen this and already know this if you're a longtime listener or you've been involved in our YouTube page here recently or on Facebook, which you can go join our Facebook family over there. You can find us on Instagram too, but we are posting fairly regularly on YouTube as well now. So we ran into some censorship. We've run into some censorship issues before. Episode 17 and episode, I want to shoot from the hip and say maybe 19 or 20. We dared to discuss some things and we got flagged for naughty behavior. So you can go check those episodes out on our website. Actually, is the best place to go find those. But we ran into some new censorship this week on an episode that was episode 17 that we released 5 months ago. So Spotify decided after 5 months that they were going to randomly review our content and decided that our content was not fit for human ears. Mm-hmm. And so they decided to just pull episode 17, which is actually Sins of the Past, I believe is the name of the episode.
Yeah.
And that gets into some of the things that we went through a few years ago. I won't say any more than that. But you can go listen to that on our website if you want to listen to that. But that's kind of shame on Spotify. So what we decide to do, anytime that we get banned or we get in trouble, we wear it as a badge of honor because we have always agreed from the very beginning we're not going to censor our words. We're going to, we believe in freedom of speech. Even if you don't like what we have to say or we don't like what someone has to say, freedom of speech is still freedom of speech.
Yeah, that's true.
So we just keep adding banners onto the artwork for the episodes. So now that one reads banned on Spotify and banned on YouTube.
That's right.
So
we kind of laugh at it. I mean, really, it's just like shake our heads and laugh. It's ridiculous, but it is what it is.
And just for clarity, we don't go out to try to be these renegade rebels that get banned on everything that we can get banned on. It's just what they've done to us.
And it's a conversation that everybody's had in the past.
Yeah,
we were just having a
conversations.
Conversation. Nothing was said that was terrible. Nothing. But hey, life is life.
If you say things they don't like, though, man, they're gonna get. That's where we are now. We're on a ship, and that ship is the Censorship.
Oh, that's a new shirt right there.
Oh, there you go. So I'll hand that over to the graphic arts director of the Tinfoil Hat Club. I'm sure she'll be listening to this. So there you go. There's a new thing for that. So, speaking of that, that's a great segue. Thanks, Ben. We're getting, like I said last week, we're getting good at this.
Yeah.
So if you guys have not already, head on over to our website, thetfhc.com. We do have a merch sale going on over there. You can actually get 20% off any of our t-shirts from here until the end of May. So check us out over there. And the other thing too is we're super, super stoked because it has been such an honor to just be a part of the show. Ben and I have just been, we've kind of had our minds blown over the last week or two with everything that's been going on and the doors that God has been opening for us through this show. And we can only do that if you guys listen, and it's just been so amazing. So we obviously had Derek on last week, who just thanks so much to him. He is an incredible guy, just an enormous knowledge base. Yeah, it's just we're definitely going to try to have him back in the future for more discussions. But we've got some really excited things coming. We had another guest after that by the name of Tom Noss, who obviously you guys are going to hear by the time you listen to this show. We had a great discussion with him on the coming Jubilee. And then we've got some other guests that we're going to kind of pepper in as we go forward here and there. We've got scheduled Dr. Judd Burton. So I'm so stoked about that. That's going to be awesome. So a week from today, we're going to be recording that episode. So you guys will see that in a few weeks. And then we've got some other guests too. We're Ben, the one that I think Ben, okay, he's laughing because he went total fangirl on me, and that is not Ben's way. But we're going to have a gentleman by the name of Zen Garcia on. Oh, yeah.
Oh, man.
And that is one of Ben's faves. So looking forward to the Zen conversation.
Oh, that was like the fact that he called me on my phone.
Yeah, that's cool.
And left a message, and I was just like, my mind was blown. I was like, Zen Garcia's calling me and on my phone, and I'm calling him.
Yeah, it's awesome, right?
I mean, it was like, I was.
You're over the moon.
Yeah, I was.
Yeah, so it's just awesome. You know, it's funny. I had a good conversation with somebody today. She's like, How'd you get Derek Gilbert to come on your show? And I was like, we asked him.
Yeah, we just asked. Yeah.
And he did it. So, you know, well, you never know until you ask, right? So stay tuned. Lots of awesome things in the future that are coming. And obviously help us out on everywhere you can. Like, subscribe, share. Most importantly, share, follow. But yeah, get the word out there. Spread the word about the foil. If you guys enjoy the foil, help us out on that front. So I guess without further ado, we'll kind of get into the episode for today. So I kind of felt led to talk about this for like a few weeks now, but this last week was really like, man, I feel like we really need to do this one. Which is, we're going to get into Ron Wyatt today. So for those of you that are not familiar with the story of Ron Wyatt and who Ron Wyatt is and was, because he passed away, I believe in 99, I think. Ron was actually a trained, let me get this right. He was a nurse, anesthetics. I knew I was going to butcher that. Anesthesist. Wow, I'm butchering that terribly, so forgive me for that. But in Nashville. So anesthetist. There we go. Anesthetist. Ooh, that's a fun thing to say.
Yeah.
In Nashville, Tennessee. And he actually was trained to do that. And then he actually saw a site or a picture of the Jerupanar site, which is in Turkey, in Life magazine. And he just felt called from the Lord from that point forward that he wanted to dig into that and he wanted to go visit that. And then that kind of led one thing to another. And then he went there multiple times, and he had all of these archaeological finds from a biblical perspective that are just incredible. And this is the part we talked upstairs where I'm going to give everybody the disclaimer. Everything that you will go read on Ron Wyatt will tell you that he was a crackpot, a hoax artist, a nut job, and that none of these things are accurate and true that he actually found. And the archaeological community horribly attacked him, tore him down. A lot of the church community horribly attacked him and tore him down. He basically got targeted and tore down from everybody under the sun. However, when you go look at these and you go dig into it more and more and more, there's a lot of credibility to these stories of things that he actually found. So, like we always say on the Tinfoil Hat Club, don't take Kyle and Ben's word for it. Go look into it yourself and you make up your own mind.
And that picture in the Life magazine, my mother-in-law knew the guy that took the picture.
Oh, wow, really?
Yeah.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Which shout out to Angie. She's one of our top fans.
Yeah, so. That was
small world.
Yeah.
How cool is that?
Yeah, I think she went to high school with him.
This man has literally gone to the Drupanar site in Turkey, and at that site in Turkey, it's the only thing in this area that it's clearly boat-shaped. It has a front and a back. The dimensions are perfect for the most part of what the dimensions in the Bible are for the ark. And the reason that it's a little deformed is because over time, it's been thousands of years, the boat has rotted down to now it's, this is what they think is the upper deck that has now fallen down all the way to the ground. And the main structure has actually bowed out. And there's some videos out there that we're not going to get into today about this particular site. But one of the fascinating things about this too is that they found that Wyatt claims to have found is next to the Drupanar site, they actually have this town where Noah, after he got off the ark, went to, and they have been able to find historical record, supposedly, of he built his house there.
Yeah.
And they have like where his vineyard would have been, and they have where his cattle would have grazed.
Yeah.
And then they found a grave site that actually they believe belonged to his wife, Imzara, I believe was her name. And in the grave site, I think they actually found skeletal remains of a woman that was 15 feet tall.
Yeah.
And I think some of a lot of the bones had been looted or whatever over time. But his wife, and there's video of this out there too, of Wyatt's wife, where she actually took some of the finger bones from this gravesite and had them analyzed. And in the video, you can actually see her getting these out of a box. And after analyzation, according to her, it was actually the left hand of a female human. And it was like the pinky finger. And the pinky finger on that hand, though, because you have three knuckles, right? You've got the one going from your hand to your first knuckle, then the middle, and then the one out to the end of your fingertip. Well, from your hand to your first knuckle literally was like the size of my entire index finger.
Yeah.
So you extrapolate that math out, and you can tell that this individual was very, very large.
Yeah.
So like 15 feet tall is what they're like. And they kind of gave it back to her, and they're like, this doesn't make any sense that you have this. This shouldn't exist. So she still has this in a box in the house. So it's just kind of crazy.
So the Smithsonian didn't come and take it then.
Right. No, they must have missed that one on the grand tour of hidden treasures. But then there's some other things too. Like they found these drogue stones, and what a drogue stone is these big, huge, literally rocks that have been cut into they almost look like kind of like tall tombstones. So they're probably about 6 feet tall. But at the top, there's a hole drilled into it or cut into it at the top. And they would use them to actually kind of manipulate the boat or keep the boat, from moving or whatever the case would be. So that's what they would do. And they repurposed this drogue stone as her headstone.
So how could they drill a hole then?
Yeah, like how they punch a hole in this stone?
Yeah, wait, but didn't it say the angels helped Noah build?
I think, it's kind of funky.
Yeah.
Imagine that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And of course, I don't think the Bible would, because you're going to get a lot of detractors with that. Be like, well, God didn't say anything about a drogue stone, putting those on the boat. And like, well, he probably didn't say anything about putting nails in it either. Or,
yeah.
All the other stuff that was probably on there that wasn't a main detail of the boat that got left out. But clearly they had to use something.
Yeah, it's, I think everybody imagines it's just sailing around the world. And they would have had to have it anchored somehow.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, exactly. So, it's kind of fascinating. But this drogue stone was actually taken, and they actually have writing on this where it shows like 6 figures, right? Because you've got the sons, or 8 people. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You got all 3 sons, Shem, Ham, Japheth, their wives. So now you're up to 6 people, right? And then Noah and Imzara, his wife. And it shows 8 people, and it shows kind of like almost you would see on the bumper stickers now. There's little stick figures and there's big stick figures. And then the biggest stick figure is clearly Noah. And then next to him is a little smaller, but still bigger than the kids or whatever.
Yeah.
And she has like her eyes closed and she's looking down. And so they took this drogue stone and they carved into it, like basically to make it a headstone.
Yeah.
And they found that at the site as well, where they got the finger bones.
Yeah.
So absolutely fascinating. So you tell me. We're going to actually play some video today. So if you are not currently watching the show, this would be a great opportunity for you to start watching the show because you can actually see these videos that we're going to play.
Hi.
And you can see what our ugly mugs look like as we wave at the camera at you. But you can actually see these videos. You're going to be able to hear them because we're still going to be available on all the audio channels as well. But it just gives us another avenue to be able to reach people. So
Yeah.
we're super stoked about that. But yeah, we're going to show you what the Darunapar site actually looks like. Or Darupanar, I always mispronounce that too. So, I'm excited to kind of dive into Ron Wyatt today. I did reach out to his wife, and maybe in a future episode we can actually have her on the show. I tried to reach out through he actually has a museum. I wasn't able to make contact. So hey, if any of our fans out there, any of our listeners want to, throw us a bone there on how we can get a hold of Ron's wife because she is still living to the best of my knowledge. And I know she was with him on a lot of these adventures. So I'll just say that we're gonna watch a video of the Darupanar site in Ron Wyatt's own words, and you tell me.
And here we are at last, gazing upon the mortal remains of the great boat that Noah and his family rowed to safety. Now notice this portion that sticks out here. When the boat came down from above and caught upon those rocks right there that you see in the middle, that tore its way into the heart of the boat and it pulled the timbers out from under this part of the gunwale. And it, of course, fell out farther than the rest. But this has rib timbers and metal brackets and everything in it to show that it's still a part of the boat. Now you'll notice a hole way at the right top corner. This is where a group that came out here in 1960, they blew holes in the boat with dynamite and then went away and said that it was not a boat. All that is except for Arthur Brandenburger, the photogrammetry expert, who went away saying it is a boat. Now, this area right in front of you here is a site where the 1960 expedition blew a hole with dynamite. And right in the middle of this is a cast of a rib timber. These gentlemen expected to find a whole lot more out here than just this very disappointing remains. Where the stone that you see in the middle came through the boat under the railing and smashed it in. And as the boat decayed, the railing and all of this dropped down over this. But along these lines are the metal indicators of the remains of the rib timbers. Again, there's way more than enough evidence to show that this is a boat. Now we're giving you a look at the front portion of the boat. For you that have been on a boat, you can't fail to recognize this. Now, as time has gone by, this area of the boat that you're looking at right now has fallen. It's gradually sinking and will slip out into the gully below. While there's enough timbers in this gunwale to support that, but the bottom is falling right out from under it. You'll notice these are two deck timbers that are sticking out, and we got an iron bracket off of this, a right-angled iron bracket. Now we're uncertain as to whether these are cast or petrified timbers, but they are at equal intervals, and right opposite them on the other wall are their counterparts. We'll focus in on 4 of the rib timbers. This area was fractured during the earthquake. We measured the casts that were left and have the dimensions on it, but you can see where the softer material inside the cast eroded down. And with this, we leave the boat.
Appears to have been Noah's home at some point after he left the ark. This house had an extremely thick wall, and the windows were such that on the outside there was kind of a small opening that, say, a wild animal could not have gotten through. But on the inside there was a very large opening, and the window casing was at quite an angle. That way, the little bit of light that entered the hole would be spread throughout the room. Do you get the picture on that? Mm-hmm. So that's something that I had never seen before until I saw this. And that made me wonder if perhaps that design was built into the ark in some manner in lighting the ark up, if they didn't use some technique like that. A small hole so not much water could get in, but then have it angled on the inside so that the light was spread over a large area. Now then, right off in this area were 2 grave markers, and we have those on film at home. I took them in 1977. Now, we made a little booklet and made sketches of all these things. And one of the people, a real good Christian, and if you didn't believe it, just ask him. Have you met those kind of folks? When I meet them anymore, they don't get anything. But at that time, I was rather naive, so I gave him one of these books. Well, I was going to bring the group out here in 1984 and show them this. We got down to another village where there was some old millstones, and I showed them that first. While I was showing them that, I saw this guy off with my sketch of the grave markers, showing them to one of the villagers to see if he knew where they were located. At that point in time, I decided that we didn't have time to get out here to see this place. But he persisted, and finally he found somebody that knew where this was, paid them $400 to dig up Mrs. Noah's grave. And again, I have the description of the people that interrogated the guy that dug it up, and some of the folks that saw it as it migrated westward and was eventually sold for over $100 million on the black market in Istanbul. Now that's a pretty impressive sum of money for jewelry. I was told that she had a head dressing of some sort that was made of gold, necklaces, bracelets, but the main thing that she had was some sort of a large bodice that was solid gold and encrusted with many gemstones. And as it turns out, like I said up on the mountain, the only way you're going to get to see that is if you get to heaven, and I assume we'll get a replay of all of this. But they dug this grave up, and if you want to walk over and look, you'll see it's quite a long grave. There was a sarcophagus appeared in Ankara about that time that was 18 feet in length. And
it's huge.
Now,
it's a big girl.
When they apparently got word back that this thing had sold for that much money, they came out here and systematically destroyed this building. When I first saw it in 1977, it was pretty much intact except for the roof. And ancient buildings usually have lost their roofs if somebody hadn't lived in them recently. Now then, if you want to go with us up to this large stone right in the saddle of the valley there, that appears to have been an altar. And from that point, you can see the system of fences here that appears to have been a system of corrals and pens. And we were told that Noah became a husbandman. And of course, there's cattle husbandry. And it's specifically mentioned that he planted some grapes or a vineyard.
We'll stop it there. But yeah, you wanted to go to Genesis 10 and read something.
Yeah.
Or Genesis in that area after the flood.
Where it came to rest.
Oh, okay. It's in Genesis 8.
Yeah, I couldn't remember. I knew it was somewhere around there.
So you may just go ahead and read?
Sure.
So Genesis 8:1, God remembered Noah, your favorite.
Scariest verse in the Bible.
Every living thing and all the livestock with him in the ark. So God caused a wind to pass over the earth and the water began to go down. Interestingly enough on that thing, the last thing that's going to happen, one of the last things that is going to happen at the end is God is going to stop having wind. When you read that in Revelation, it says to stop having the wind blow. That's kind of interesting. But the water began to go down and the fountains of the deep and the windows of the sky were stopped, which is interesting because the fountains of the deep, everybody's like, what are you talking about? There's no fountains of the deep. Well, that's contrary because they literally just found evidence that there's a massive river of water, like however many kilometers beneath the surface. River.
And it's somewhere
ocean.
mentioned in Psalms.
Imagine that.
And in Enoch, I do believe.
Yeah.
Hey.
Go figure. The Bible is actually historically right.
Somebody, you need to read.
Scientifically right. Go figure.
Read Enoch.
Yeah, right. The rain from the sky was restrained and the water came back from completely covering the earth. It was after 150 days that the water went down. On the 17th day of the 7th month, the ark came to rest on the mountains of Ararat, which we know is in Turkey.
And as we discussed in Jubilees, when we discussed, this is also one of the holy days. It's the beginning of the holy days.
Yes.
And it all goes back to the flood.
It does. It all goes back to the flood. Because one of the things that you can actually read in Jubilees is awesome because you get more specific, right? Because it actually tells you exactly the site on Ararat.
Yeah.
Which I have, and I will pull up, and I will read for everyone.
Extra biblical texts are important.
Indeed they
and
are.
I'm quoting Dr. Michael Heiser on that one. So those folks that question, extra biblical text, well, Dr. Heiser said they were important to know.
It won't hurt you.
No, it won't.
So
it'll make your sword a little sharper.
Indeed it will, Ben. Indeed it will. So we can see here in Jubilees, and it's actually in chapter 5, verse 28, and the ark went and rested on the top of Lubar, one of the mountains of Ararat.
Yeah.
So you get a more specific site. So the other thing too is like going back to your point about the covenants and stuff.
Yeah.
Because one of the first things he planted a vineyard, which we kind of, they've found evidence of that on the site too.
Yeah.
Is, he was partaking in the wine from the vineyard because the reason he had planted the vineyard was the covenant that God made with him.
Yeah.
Of post-flood was to stop all the things that were happening before the flood, which was all of the wickedness, that had happened with the drinking of blood and the consuming of blood and all of the killing and the death and the murder that had happened leading up to the flood. So that was his thing. So yeah, he comes out of the ark. He built an altar on that mountain, which is something that we maybe saw in the video.
Yeah,
because they think they found that the altar there made atonement for the earth and took a kid, so a small goat, made atonement by its blood for all the guilt of the earth, for everything that had been done on it had been destroyed except for those that were left in the ark with Noah. So it's like, sweet, we're starting fresh. So we're gonna.
I bet that more than likely was Passover.
Yeah, that would not shock me in the least bit.
It would have had to been.
Could probably some nerd out there can probably do the reverse math and figure that one out.
I bet it was.
Wouldn't shock me at all. Not one bit.
What day did it say it was?
It says on the 3rd new month, he went out of the ark and built an altar on that mountain. He made atonement for the earth and took a kid, and so whatever that would have been.
3rd new month. So more than likely it probably was because
Well, I think the first new month is typically April, right?
Yeah.
So I guess it would have been after. Maybe July-ish. Who knows, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. Things have gotten massively jacked up since then.
Yep.
But, it's, we get into the rainbow again. And here you go. This is where we talk about the festival. So just for clarity, in chapter 6, this is chapter 6, verse 16. Actually, I'll back up to verse 15. And he gave to Noah and his sons a sign that there should not again be a flood on the earth. He set his bow, a rainbow, in the clouds as a sign of the eternal covenant that there should never again be a flood on the earth to destroy it for all the days of the earth. For this reason it is ordained and written on the heavenly tablets that they should celebrate the Feast of Weeks. There you go. In this month once a year to renew the covenant every year. The whole festival was celebrated in heaven from the day of creation until the days of Noah, which were 26 jubilees and 5 weeks of years. So, not quite another jubilee.
Yeah.
So, Noah and his sons observed it for 7 jubilees and 1 week of years until the day of Noah's death. From the day of Noah's death, his sons did away with it until the days of Abraham. And they ate blood. They just couldn't help themselves, could they? Just couldn't help themselves.
No. And I didn't, way back last fall, I shared a theory, and you were like, hey, you need to check this out. And that's after the show, you showed me that video.
Oh, yeah. So that was kind of your first foray into the Ron Wyatt world. Yeah, so just to kind of catch everybody up to speed, the theory that you had was that in order for Christ's sacrifice on the cross to actually be a proper sacrifice, one of the last things that's done is the blood is actually sprinkled onto the ark.
Yeah.
And so you had actually proposed that maybe the ark was underneath Golgotha, underneath Calvary, and that the blood actually ran down into the rocks, and that the ark had to be down there that the blood dripped onto.
Yeah.
And that's what led me to, oh, really, that's your theory. And then Ben had never heard of this before. So that was just his theory. Because obviously in that situation, I think we all know that God and Christ didn't do anything half measure. It was like, if this is going to be full, it sure makes a lot of sense that this would be a full sacrifice down to the letter of God's law.
Yeah. So
just to give you a little lead in, because it doesn't necessarily get into the video, and we don't want to play 40 minutes of video, and that's all you guys get. Wyatt actually found some chambers, because there are chambers all underneath Jerusalem. This goes back to the Crusades and even before the Crusades, because, for throughout time, Jerusalem has been raided and, had wars and everything else. This goes back way to the beginning of biblical time. And one of the things that even when they were doing the Crusades, they found all these tunnels everywhere, and they had actually hidden things in the tunnels that the English found and took.
Yeah.
Not just like the stuff in the temple, but the Rome has taken stuff throughout time too. But this even goes all the way back to what they suspect was like Jeremiah during Jeremiah's time, because that was when they were actually taken into, I believe it was Jeremiah, taken into Babylonian captivity during the first temple period. And I think I'm getting that right. And so that's when the sacrifices stopped in the temple. And they were thinking that he is the last one. After that, we lose track of where the ark went.
Yeah.
And so Wyatt claims to have actually gotten into the area where the ark sits underneath Calvary.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of fascinating what all is, if this is accurate. It's just crazy, because he said he couldn't quite get in there all the way, but he got in there to be able to see the ark. And he says he actually took a sample, because there was blood that was actually, or some kind of material that had been collected on the mercy seat of the ark, and he took a sample of it. So that's going to be the video that we're going to watch right now, actually.
All right. You can watch it with us.
Yes, you can. Go to go to YouTube, or even better yet, because YouTube believes sometimes in censorship, Rumble.
Yeah.
Check us out on Rumble.
My question is that you said that you had the blood of our Lord examined by the Israelis.
That's correct.
What was their determination of that?
Okay. Now, we won't be able to take second questions. I'm sorry if you're on your second one, please just step out. I love you, but we're running out of time. Real quickly, okay. Dried blood is dead blood. Everybody knows that, all right? They can test the blood of the pharaohs, the mummies of the pharaohs, all right? There's certain things they can do. They cannot get a chromosome count by any method I'm familiar with, all right? Things keep changing. I don't profess to know everything. However, there's no way I know that you can get a chromosome count out of dead blood. You can get a DNA and some other things, but not a chromosome count, all right? That's done by living white blood cells. Now then, first of all, in this analysis, I took the blood into a laboratory in Israel. I asked one of the people I work with in antiquities, where is a good laboratory that does reliable work? And they said, such and such, such and such. I took it. I just said, please examine this blood and tell me what you can tell me about it. All right? They said, well, look, we're going to reconstitute it. We're going to put it in normal saline and keep it at body temperature for 72 hours with gentle swirling. All right, that's their business. That's great. I said, now I want to be there when you check it out. They said, fine. So I was back. They checked it out. I said, now, they said it's human blood. We can tell that. They did whatever tests they need to do. And then I said, take some of the white blood cells and put them in a growth medium and keep them at body temperature for 48 hours. And they said, well, that'll do no good because it's dead blood. I said, would you please do that for me? And they said, okay, we'll do it. So anyway, I said, I want to be there when you take it out and examine it. So I was back there. They took it out, examined it under a microscope, and the one technician called the other one over there, and then they called the boss over there, and they were talking Hebrew a mile a minute there for a little bit, and they looked at me and they said, Mr. Wyatt, this human blood only has 24 chromosomes in it. Everybody else has 46. You see, 23 from your mother, 23 from your father, 22 autosomes from your mother, 22 autosomes from your father. You get an X from your mother, you may get an X or a Y from your father, all right? This blood had 23 chromosomes from the mother's side, one Y chromosome only. You see, a child could not have developed if they hadn't had the autosomes from the mother. So all of his physical characteristics were determined by his mother's side of the family, her autosomes. His maleness was determined by this one Y that came from a source, not a human male. Then they said, this blood is alive. And then they said, whose blood is this? I said, it's the blood of your Messiah. And I assure you, those men's lives have changed.
Yeah, that's a crazy video.
That is crazy.
I mean, again, you know, you can see why somebody's going to attack that. First of all, I guess to kind of dive into that a little bit, because one of the things that I think is, for me, and we've talked about this on the show, I have a tremendous problem with the modern archaeological community.
Oh, yeah.
I think that they're terrible. I think it's very clear to anyone with two brain cells to bang together that they have deliberately and continually and perpetually lied about the real history of things.
Yeah.
And I think more and more people are finding this out and digging into it. And people that aren't even Christians.
Yeah.
You know, I've talked about Graham Hancock several times on the show. Who isn't, for all intents and purposes, I don't know if I'd say he's agnostic or atheist or whatever, but he's not a Christian. And he can tell in visiting all these places that the modern accepted archaeological theory of sites like, Göbekli Tepe and all of these different places around the world just don't make sense.
Yeah.
Even the pyramids don't make sense. Everybody knows that. But yet modern archaeology still continues to perpetuate all of these things. So for modern archaeology to attack him, I could take that and, wipe my tail with it and throw it in the toilet.
Yeah.
I could care less.
Yeah.
So, it's just kind of fascinating that, he's claiming that. Doesn't mean he's right. Doesn't mean he's telling the truth. I don't know, but it sure is fascinating.
Yeah.
And it would be one thing if this was the only thing, but it's not the only thing.
Okay. If Christians are discrediting this guy,
Yeah.
they need to take a look at what they believe. They believe, us too, we believe that Jesus was born of a virgin,
Yeah.
died and rose again, and sits on the right-hand side of the Father.
Mm-hmm.
Now, just say it. Who's crazy? Who's crazy?
Right. Yeah, exactly.
I mean, we Christians need to be a little more nicer to people when they say they have something.
Yeah. Like give it some space.
Yeah. I mean, we Christians are the worst to judge people.
Dude, I'm telling you right now, including other Christians.
Yes.
We get so locked into our dogma and our current belief system. And, I saw some things earlier this week where it was talking about some of the extra biblical texts that we talk about all the time on this show, right? It was talking about the book of Enoch, and somebody just instantly in there went, nope, it's not the Bible. Don't bother with it.
Yeah.
And it's like, that is extremely narrow-minded program thinking that you're engaging in.
Yeah.
You're not engaging in rational thinking. And we see this with other things too, right?
Oh, yeah.
All the time, politics and everything else. And there was another person, you get that camp, and then there was another person in there that came on and went one step further and went, nope, it's contrary to God's word. It's contrary to the Bible. It's bad. Don't read it.
Yeah.
And I instantly thought to myself, you've never read it before.
No.
Because if you read it, you wouldn't say that.
Yeah.
Because, you're tempted to go to these people and go, oh yeah, what makes it contrary to God's word? But then you just get in an argument with someone who has already shown you that they're willing to engage in blind ignorance and parrot speak. And if they're willing to engage in parrot speak, there is no point whatsoever trying to engage with them.
Yeah.
Because they're never going to.
And you're not going to win that. You're just going to look like then eventually you look like two idiots arguing.
I said this earlier to somebody earlier today. I said one of the best sayings I ever heard is never argue with an idiot because they'll drag you down to their level and beat you with experience.
Yes. That's what it turns out to be.
It's what it turns out to be every single time. So yeah, we get this all the time. And you listen to this and you engage. Now, I'll be the first one to say, am I skeptical about some of these findings? Yes, I am. But I also have to tell you that they're very compelling.
If you just...
It's healthy skepticism. It's not skepticism to the point of like, I'm not even going to engage in the thinking of this, of thinking it's possible.
Yeah.
Like I have healthy skepticism when it comes to some other things too, but I'm willing to listen.
Yeah.
Like, we haven't really done a flat earth show, maybe in the future, because some people believe in flat earth and some people don't believe in flat earth. So there's a teaser. You'll have to check in later to see who believes in what. But I will say personally, I am not a flat earth guy, but I am also open to the theory.
Yeah.
I'm open to listening to evidence as long as it's biblically based and gives good sound science to go with the evidence. Sound science, which, we kind of say that nowadays, and it almost is like a joke now because we've done so many corrupt things with science. But, it's like the eclipse, Like there were people that were like, oh, the eclipse isn't going to happen. That's just them trying to get us all spun up. Don't look up, And it's like, no, it's really going to happen. And I kind of watched it. I'm sure there's people out there that are like, oh, they faked it. And it's like, dude, or birds are spies.
Well,
well.
Hey, I will say, one of my daughters said the reason why 4 years ago happened was to replace all the batteries. I still love that one. That's the best one I've heard.
Oh, that's pretty good.
To replace all the batteries and the birds.
You know, until they get the nuclear down far enough where you can get it in a Sparrow.
I know.
You got to replace the batteries every once in a while. You got to recharge. Wouldn't you think they'd program somewhere to sit down overnight and kind of recharge while everybody's sleeping?
I don't know.
Just a thought. You should tell her that. Tell her I said that. That's. Let's throw her mind.
But going back to.
We started with Ron Wyatt. We wound up with CIA birds. Welcome to the Tinfoil Hat Club.
You know, I don't know if I'm right about my theory about the blood.
Oh, yeah. I mean, but it makes a lot of sense.
Holding to the law, it would have had to been done.
The other thing, too, is it sure makes a lot of sense with the other things that we've talked about, because you brought up a really good point of, you know, we're going through this whole red heifer thing and they want to do the sacrifice so that they can rebuild the temple. Well, look at the links that they're going to try to keep this as Levitically pure as possible, right? To Moses' law, right? To the law. Well, why would you go that far and then just to turn around and rebuild a temple that doesn't have the ark in it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because that's the thing you've said. Like, they got to have the ark. You can't have a proper temple without the ark.
Yeah.
So it sure makes a lot of sense that they've known that it's been down there for a long time and that they have it now.
They're just being a little hush hush.
And maybe it was like, oh crap, this dude, maybe he's actually the one that found the ark, and then they're like, oh crap, we got to get that.
Yeah.
And get it out of there and put it somewhere else. I don't know. It's in a warehouse with Nazi symbols burned on the side of it.
But just knowing how God works, and we've every day on this show, every week, we say he works in layers.
Yeah.
And so it just makes sense how that would have had to happen. Like, God's like, these guys, they need to go somewhere so I can hide the ark for them because, you know.
Yeah.
And so they get kicked out and they go to Babylon. Let's hide the ark and put it in this cave here.
Yeah.
It's on Golgotha.
They hid it somewhere because there is no record of them having it, you know, after a certain point.
Yeah.
And I think I've got my timelines mixed up. Maybe I'm trying to remember how everything went down, but after a certain point, we lose track of where the ark was.
Yeah.
Right. That's the only thing that really matters coming out of this. And somewhere along the line, you know, they went into captivity and nobody knows where the ark went.
I was just thinking, if it was the U.S. government, they'd have it on display somewhere. Like the Liberty Bell, the Constitution, you know, all this stuff that they're proud of.
Unless it's like National Treasure and they actually have a secret room somewhere with all this crap in it.
Maybe. I don't know.
That's a great movie.
Yeah.
We love National Treasure. That's one of our favorites.
Yeah, it's a good movie.
But yeah, this man, you know, like, again, it's worth entertaining, right? This is kind of fascinating. I mean, because the other thing too is, like, the thing about a liar is you typically get tripped up over time.
Yeah.
You know, your story gets more, you know, gets bigger as you go on because you just got to blow it up more and more to make yourself more and more grand because you're ego driven. That's what people that are like that do. And this has not happened. No. So this has been maintained very consistently. And it's not like he's alone. He has people that have gone with him and found these things.
Yeah.
And there's pictures.
Yeah.
You know, and a lot of evidence to go with this, you know. So it's just kind of crazy. But, you know, some other things that he's been involved with finding were not only, you know, the ark, and then digging into the Jerusalem site, where not only the Ark of the Covenant, but the Jerusalem site where the actual ark itself, Noah's Ark, rests. But then another one that's fascinating is he supposedly found the real location of Sodom and Gomorrah and was able to get some information out of that. And then the other one that we were going to talk about today, which is kind of fascinating, is the Red Sea crossing.
Yeah.
And so we got a really good video that we'll pull up here in a second on that is actually kind of breaking down Wyatt's discovery of the real true Red Sea crossing, because nobody really knows where it is.
Yeah.
You know, they just kind of speculate based on biblical record of where it could be. And the other thing, too, that's kind of fascinating in this, that the video I do believe gets into as well, is the real location of Mount Sinai.
Yeah.
Because the Mount Sinai that we have labeled today, they don't believe is actually the real Mount Sinai. where everything actually took place in the Bible.
Isn't the real one like burnt, like just toasted?
I don't recall
I thought it would look like it
that they found in here.
Yeah,
because of God's fire.
Yeah,
I'm trying to remember if it gets into that in the video.
I think that right below it there's a pictograph of a golden calf or something.
Yeah, I think maybe they get into that in the video. Okay. So we'll go ahead and watch the video, and we'll discuss after.
Yeah. No. Hey. That's what we do.
Right here where this valley comes out, there's a natural waterway. It's a dry riverbed. That is called a wadi, W-A-D-I. If you went into that wadi, you would find there are rocks all over the place, but they've all been pushed out of the way to make a path. Somebody pushed all the rocks out of the way to make a path for wagons, apparently. That dry riverbed, the wadi, ends up at that white dot, which you can barely see from this satellite map. That white dot is actually this giant beach. Off to the right, you can see where that wadi comes into it, that dry riverbed. And at the bottom of that beach, way down there, which would be the south end, at the south end, Ron Wyatt found this pillar. It had fallen down, half in the water. He and his sons dragged it out, scrubbed it off. A lot of it was eroded, but part of it was still readable. And it basically said something to the effect of, this pillar was erected by King Solomon to commemorate the crossing of the Red Sea. So they went...
Now, again, you got physical evidence.
Yeah.
Right? Physical evidence. Unless this has been magically manufactured. You've got physical evidence of this.
Yeah.
So we'll keep watching.
And did some research. The National Geophysical Data Center in Boulder, Colorado has a map showing the depth of the water. How deep is the water? Above this red arrow, you can see where it says the Elan Deep, or Elat Deep. It's nearly 5,000 feet deep. The Gulf of Aqaba is. Incredibly deep water. South of there is the Aragonese Deep, which again is nearly 5,000 feet deep. But right where that arrow is, there's a shallow place. It's only 900 feet deep, which is still pretty deep. But 900 foot in 8 or 9 miles is a nice gentle slope down and a nice gentle slope up. Easy for wagons. There's an underwater land bridge right there. He says they walked across on dry ground, 900-foot wall of water on both sides. He went out to as deep as they could go, 100 feet or whatever, 150 feet with the scuba equipment, and found all along, as far as they could go, chariot wheels with no chariots attached to them. And chariot bodies crumbling badly, poorly conditioned, with no wheels on them. They found horse skeletons and human skeletons crusted over with coral. The chariot wheels, you can see one here in this picture, it's kind of hard to see, but it's gold-plated wood, but the wood has rotted out. There's only one Egyptian dynasty that used 4-spoke, 6-spoke, and 8-spoke, all 3 types used in this one dynasty. And all 3 are found down there, or something like that. If you look at the far right, this arrow is pointing to a mountain in Saudi Arabia called Jebel al-Laws, which means Mountain of Laws. It's been labeled that for centuries. Could Mount Sinai be in Arabia? Well, let's see what the Bible says. Galatians chapter 4. Which gendereth the bondage which is Agar, for this Agar is Mount Sinai in Arabia. Hello, it's been there all along, folks. Okay. Why have they been looking in the Sinai Peninsula? That's not where it is. This is a picture of the mountain that apparently is Mount Sinai. The top of it is still black. This may be the place where Moses got the 10 Commandments. At the bottom...
Bingo, sir.
Yep.
Well done. Well played, Ben. Well played. So we'll pull up Galatians 4 here when we're done, and we'll talk.
Bottom you can see an altar with a calf on it. This may be the altar that Moses
your altar.
or Aaron set up. Okay. God told Moses to stand upon the rock. He said, "Thou shalt smite the rock, and water will come out that the people may drink." Of course, most Bible pictures will show a little stream of water coming out. How long would it take to water 2 million people plus their cows and sheep? Hello, it would take a little while, wouldn't it? This Bible picture shows a little bigger stream. Well, that's getting closer. Actually, this building is from a picture taken from a half mile away. This rock is as tall as a 5-story building. It is split right down the middle. Ron says this is the place, this is the rock that's split in half. And water came pouring out. You can see erosion marks. It'd be worth getting his video if you want to really study more on this, called the Evidences video, or Discoveries, I think it is, Ron Wyatt Discoveries. Really good. He also found some strange things like Sodom and Gomorrah. The Bible says brimstone came down. This is a picture of solid ash cliffs Apparently, the city was burned so badly by these raining sulfur. Ron gave me, and I have right here behind the curtain, some of the sulfur balls. I don't let many folks handle these because every time you handle it, some rubs off, okay? And then eventually they'll be gone. I've had several friends, even some scoffers, who said, I don't think that's true. And they went over there to the place where Ron said they were, and they dug through the ash, and sure enough, there are literally millions of these sulfur balls. The outside is kind of a white. I know sulfur is yellow. I taught science, okay? If you scrape off this white coating, it's pure yellow sulfur, 99.6% pure sulfur. You can smell it for sure. Apparently, burning sulfur dripped on that city, or rained on the city. As the sulfur would burn itself out, it would encapsulate itself in its own ash and shut off its oxygen supply. Ends up with a coating around a pure sulfur ball. Found no place in the world except this place over there.
It's amazing that God would use sulfur so it would burn itself out when he's done.
Imagine that.
It's crazy.
Yeah, and again, you got a little bit of what we talked about before with that, but you can see, again, clear physical evidence of these things. So you got the pillar, right? You got the land bridge where we can tell, right? We can tell the depth.
Could you imagine a 900-foot wall of water on the
Hopefully we don't see one soon. But no, 900 feet, man. That's the story of that's the 9-story building.
I know.
So that'd be like going downtown in most cities
that
and
would
just
be
find a 9-story building. And
no wonder they talked about it for so many years afterwards. Like, you're not going to believe this, kids. We crossed.
I know, right?
And who knows how white it was.
Again, you estimate 2 million people, which is about, that's probably about right, because there was 600,000. Once you get into Exodus and you actually start, or I'm sorry, I think it is actually Leviticus again. There's a great exchange between Moses and Jethro, who was Moses' father-in-law. Yeah. And he comes out, and at that particular time, Moses is still trying to figure out leadership. Yeah. Right? Because I use this in my other business and for leadership coaching as an example. And I think Jethro was a priest as well.
Yeah, he was.
And, Moses is trying to play mediator to all of the people's problems. And that's all he's doing, like from sun up to sundown. And Jethro is basically like, what are you doing?
Yeah, you're wasting your time.
You're completely ineffective as a leader, because that's all you're doing. So you're not doing anything else that you need to be doing. And so he actually tells him to incorporate a leadership structure in the deal of men that are over thousands, hundreds, and 50s, and I think even 10s all the way down. And so that he can actually, he acts like kind of the Supreme Court, if you will. He focuses on like the most complex cases or whatever, but then he can actually go play leader the way he's supposed to be leading. Yeah. And it's just kind of a fascinating thing that you can see this, but you get into this and you can clearly see in that biblical verse right there, I think it actually says 600,000 men.
Yeah.
So that's just the men, not the women and the children, because they're not counted in that.
Yeah.
So if you got 600,000 men,
you have 600,000 women.
Figure 600,000 women, and then you got to figure at
least
if
they each had 2.
There you go. That's how we get to that number.
Yeah.
Right. So, and then you've got, like he said, you've got the cattle and everything else, because they picked up and they left Egypt.
And you also and some of the people from Egypt went with them.
Yeah. So then that increases your head count even more.
Yeah.
So you can see here how big this had to be. And like he said, and you can see, I think, even on the topography, that it was gentle sloped, gentle slope in, gentle slope out. So it's not so brutally difficult to do this. But, one of the other things that you'll read out there is like, that's one of the ways they try to debunk Wyatt is because he said he was out there in normal scuba gear as far as they could go out. And he said 100 to 150 feet, which is about the limit of scuba gear, normal scuba gear, before you have to start getting more complicated stuff involved. He was using this. And they said at one point, I guess maybe he said that they were 200 feet. And they're like, oh, you couldn't have been 200 feet because you have to have special gear in order to go 200 feet out. So, they use that to kind of bat at him. Anything and everything that he ever said that was going to be questionable in the least, we say things all the time that are we don't mean, necessarily taken out of context, though they use that to beat on him and discredit him.
Yeah.
So
like you come to Indiana, everything's a half hour away.
Right. Midwestern speak, right? Midwestern speak. Yeah. Right. It's hilarious. So yeah, you can see these very clear-cut examples of some of the things, and it's fascinating. Like you got this rock, you've got the crossing, you've got the topography that you can look at, the pillar,
the burnt mountaintop,
the carving that you talked about at the base. It just fits like Cinderella's slipper.
Oh yeah.
And then you go to Galatians. So which is fascinating.
CJB, right?
Well, of course, Ben. We don't use anything other than the CJ. Well, yeah, we do sometimes, but just to make it easy on people.
Yeah.
So was that Galatians 4, right? So we'll pick up in verse 21. So this is obviously New Testament, Galatians 4, verse 21. Tell me, you who want to be in subjection to the system that results from perverting the Torah into legalism, don't you hear what the Torah itself says? It says that Abraham had 2 sons, one by the slave, Hagar, woman, and one by the free woman, which would have been Sarah, his wife.
Yeah.
The one by the slave woman was born according to limited capabilities of human beings, but the one by the free woman was born through the miracle working power of God fulfilling his promise. Mm-hmm. Right? Now, to make a midrash on these things, the 2 women are 2 covenants. One is from Mount Sinai and bears children for slavery. It is Hagar. Hagar is Mount Sinai in Arabia. For she corresponds to the present Jerusalem, for she serves as a slave along with her children. But the Jerusalem above is free, and she is our mother.
Huh.
Imagine that, in Arabia.
And okay, some think that Paul went to Mount Sinai and was taught by Christ.
Yeah, how much of a gap is there between like
he was there
Damascus Road and then
3 or 4 years?
Is that how much there was?
Yeah, and they think that some postulate that he went back to Mount Sinai and Christ physically came down and taught him.
Interesting. Do you know what that's from?
I think it's just theory
out
conjecture,
there. Yeah, it's fun theory. I mean, we don't know for sure,
but I mean,
he sure talks a lot like he knew Christ intimately, like personally.
Why not?
I mean, why not? Exactly. Christ is not the one. Isn't Christ not the one that actually talks to him on the Damascus Road?
Yeah.
It sure is.
And I know people are probably like, well, now
it's not in the Bible.
That's not in the Bible. And well, Christ.
We know. Calm down.
Why would Christ, wouldn't that count as a return? Wouldn't him?
No, not necessarily. See, well, I know. You're playing devil's advocate.
And then wouldn't
Christ advocate.
Wouldn't that count as a Christ return when he was on the road to Damascus too?
Boy, look at that hot stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of like, I think view it like similar is like how you see kind of Enoch. Because the first example of kind of something like that we get in the Bible or in Scripture is in Enoch. You can actually see how he's communicating with Methuselah and even Noah.
Yeah.
And Lamech, for that matter, I think at some point.
Yeah.
And he is not, you get the gist that he's not physically present.
He's just,
he's like communicating to them from the spiritual realm.
Yeah.
That's kind of a bad way to put it, but not really.
He's there, but he's not there.
Yeah. Like they definitely go talk to him, and maybe he did physically manifest, but like you can tell by this particular point, especially some of the conversations that he's having with Noah, because we know that he was gone before Noah showed up.
Yeah.
He's having them somehow. So maybe he physically manifested himself, but he's not present on the earth. He's gone.
Yeah.
Like he'd been taken by that point.
Now let's, I just had this thought.
Oh, dangerous territory. I love it. Give it to me, Ben.
Okay. He replaced Judas.
Who?
This is me thinking, instead of the disciples casting lots and Matthias.
Oh, yeah. Poor Matthias. That's like the only press he gets.
I know. I think God wanted Paul. He wanted Paul because, God worked through Paul.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
He was like, so I think this has no bearing, no whatever. Jesus was with the disciples 3 or 4 years on the earth. God, he handpicks Paul.
Oh, you mean before death?
Yeah, before death.
Okay, yeah.
He handpicks Paul to be the dude,
Yeah.
and he's with him 3 or 4 years on Mount Sinai.
Interesting.
How else would, I mean, he was under, was it Gamaliel or Gamaliel?
Gamaliel.
Yeah, and
Or whatever,
let's think
whatever.
about it. He was
Because he was a Pharisee. A lot of people don't realize that. Paul was a trained Pharisee.
and he was a contemporary with Jesus.
Yeah, interesting.
He would have been there. He would have known of him. He would have known who he was.
Oh, no doubt about it, because he's persecuting, you
Yeah.
know, his following and his believers. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Gamaliel actually seemed like a pretty interesting cat.
Yeah, he was like the dude of the dudes.
Yeah,
you know?
it seemed like it. But he was definitely the one that was telling them, like, don't persecute him.
Yeah.
You're countermanding your own, just don't do it.
Yeah.
But they couldn't help themselves. They had to do it.
But just, I know we've kind of, like we normally do, strayed a little bit,
It's all connected.
but yeah, I mean, don't discredit anything.
Yeah, be
That's-
open-minded. Listen.
Yes.
You know, if you're, and that's just the thing. I think, you know, this kind of goes back to some of the other conversations we've had too, where the church has beat it into everybody's head. Do not entertain anything that's outside of Scripture.
Yeah.
Just don't do it. Because they think that somehow, because if it's outside of Scripture, it's going to be counter to Scripture.
Yeah.
And there's no human, imagine if we actually had every single detail ever that was recorded in Scripture.
Oh yeah.
I mean, we would fill the house up.
Yeah.
You know, there's no way. You can't do that. So you can only hit the high points of the story and then, you know, move on. And there are other points in there that are covered in other material. You just have to be open-minded enough to read the other material.
Yeah.
But I think that the church too, you know, there's been a concerted effort for a long time in the church to, I think, deliberately keep you from reading that material.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, speaking of just keeping track of everything, 1776, July 4th, King George said nothing happened that day in his diary or something.
Really?
Yes.
It's just out of spite.
It was like, because he hadn't heard about what they just did.
Well, no, because that's just going to take weeks.
Yeah. And so just because something's not going on in your life doesn't mean something extraordinary isn't going on in somebody else's life.
Right. Or you don't know the historical basis. But imagine
Yeah.
if somebody finds that, you know, a couple hundred years from now, and we lose a lot of the history, right?
Oh, yeah.
Because, you know, I guess the interesting thing for us, one of the questions that we ask all the time is, man, how did we lose this history?
Yeah. Well,
And
discreditation.
boom, I think you're dead on, because that's exactly what I think too. Or I made a comment to somebody earlier today. There has never been a better time in the history of America to go brush up on your Orwell and read Animal Farm.
Oh, yeah.
Because if you go read Animal Farm, which is not a long read, it's a shorter read, right? And go get the audiobook or whatever, but go read Animal Farm. Because Animal Farm, when you read and you listen to what was being said in that book, written in like the 50s or something like that, I think, and you compare it to what is happening in America today, it is jaw-droppingly shocking.
Oh, yeah.
Of how much of the stuff that you read in Animal Farm is happening right now.
Yeah.
And what happens in there is the twisting of facts and truth.
Really?
Oh, imagine that. But it makes sense how we've lost things, right? Because it's been twisted and deliberately suppressed. And, you know, I mean, like, look what they did to William Tyndale. How dare he actually, you know, translate the Bible so that someone can read it.
Oh, yeah.
You know, we wanted to control the information. You can clearly see this. The early church, because of power, wanted to control the information.
Yeah. That's crazy.
As a side note, kind of an interesting take on that. Have you ever seen the movie The Book of Eli?
Yes.
Denzel Washington?
Yes. A long time ago.
Yeah, so the premise of the movie is I won't give away the spoiler, but the premise of the movie is Denzel Washington is set in an apocalyptic future. I don't know if it really says what the apocalypse was, but it's kind of the wastelandy kind of thing, right? And he has a Bible.
Yeah.
That he is trying to get to this group to have it. It's like one of the last Bibles that exists.
Yeah.
And he's trying to protect it to get to this particular group to actually have the Bible, you know, written down and actually basically printed so that we can have Bibles again. and Gary Oldman, Denzel Washington plays the one character, but Gary Oldman plays the villain in the movie.
Yeah.
And he wants the Bible because he knows how powerful the words of it are, so that he can be a more powerful villain and, ruler of everyone.
Yeah.
Because he knows, he said, whoever has that Bible can control man.
Yeah.
And it's an interesting take, because I'm sure Hollywood's coming from it from one perspective, but it's kind of an interesting introspective thing that we look at it from a different perspective of, like, to me, when I see that, I'm like, that's exactly what the church did originally.
Oh, yeah.
To us, to control the information.
Yep.
So
all about control.
Always about control.
Yeah.
But yeah, Ron is fascinating. From the perspective of, like, the evidence side of the coin. And the more video that you listen to of Ron, he's just, you just listen to certain people and you're like, I don't think that dude's lying.
No.
Like, I'm pretty good. I'm probably got a pretty good lie detector. I've been doing this for a long time as far as a career path. And I've talked to and interviewed a lot of liars, to get them to tell the truth. And you can tell when somebody's being dishonest a lot of times.
Yeah. After you showed me him, I went and watched a lot of his stuff. And I have I will say a crap detector, built-in crap detector.
Keeping a PG, keeping a G rated for the kids.
Yeah. And so it never went off when I was watching his stuff.
Yeah, it doesn't.
Now I can watch a lot of people that I don't know, and it's going off. But I'm like, that's very compelling.
Yeah, him and Lazar.
Yeah.
Like, when I go watch Bob Lazar, I'm like, that dude is telling the truth.
Yeah.
As crazy as it is, I think he's telling the truth.
Yeah.
And for those of you that I think we covered that in our Alien show back in, one of our first shows we did. So you can go listen to that and get more on Bob Lazar. That is another crazy, crazy story.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I just, when you listen to the man talk, I do not sense any deception in him.
No.
And it's like, I don't think he got rich off this stuff.
No.
I think he just was kind of making enough to exist.
Yeah.
And keep doing this because he felt led to do it. And he says that God just kind of led him around and said, hey, you need to go here, you need to go there.
He was led by the Spirit.
Yeah, led by the Spirit to go find this stuff. And that's what God does. He picks people to go do this.
Yeah.
I'm going to reveal it to you for whatever reason. You're the one I've chosen.
Yeah. Speaking of Moses, some say he probably thought he studied or something.
Yeah, I've heard that before.
And I don't know what it was, but
I think he does say that why
slow to
choosing,
speak.
slow to speak.
But God uses, like, the inferior thing so he can have his power through. So he uses a normal guy to go do something, and people try to discredit him.
Gideon.
Yeah.
Hail, mighty warrior.
Yeah. Yeah. Deborah.
Who are you talking about?
Yeah. Deborah. A woman.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Rahab.
Oh, yeah.
That's cool. I saw a really cool presentation on Rahab, whereas, like, you run the lineage on Rahab of like who she wound up, begetting, and how the lineage runs.
Christ.
Yeah. Christ winds up coming from the line of Rahab, a prostitute.
Yes.
God
blesses people.
Who helped the spies.
That's
how God works, bro.
And we're seeing it. We are seeing it.
Yeah, it's been insane. It's been a crazy, crazy ride, and just we're so blessed and thankful to be a part of it. So, Ron, hope to see you in heaven someday.
Yeah,
and it was a good. Hopefully, this shines some light on some folks that'll go dig into Ron Wyatt in the future. Maybe we can have his wife on.
That would be great.
It'd be kind of awesome.
Talk to somebody new.
Yeah, always looking forward to talking to people.
Yeah.
And just so everybody knows, kind of Ben and I have discussed that we're going to keep the format 2 and 2. So we're going to kind of do 2 episodes a month will be him and I, and then 2 will be guests, because we got this thing started just you and I talking, and we want to keep that going.
Yeah. And
like today's episode.
And if you know somebody that wants to be on,
hey,
yeah, we'll talk to them, discuss.
Send us an email, thedudes@thetfhc.com.
Please email us. We would love to hear from you.
Nobody emails us except for the cool guests that are coming on.
Yes. Okay.
They have been emailing.
Okay, guys, this is a way to be in the in crowd.
Yeah, there you go. Be hip.
Be hip. if you want to be one of the cool kids that's going to be on, email, be with them, be in that circle.
Yeah, you know what? I know that there's people out there that have fascinating stories. We've actually already seen some really crazy stories on YouTube. There's some people that have said that after the episode with Derek, where he shared the story of the kid that had the spiritual gift to be able to see kind of this into the spirit realm. We've had other people that have got on there and said that they have that gift too, and I guarantee there's more people out there.
We would love. I mean,
fascinating talk.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's a thing, man. It happens.
Yeah, it is.
So yeah, drop us a line. We look forward to it.
Please do. We want to hear from you.
We're lonely.
And we read them on too.
Yeah, we should have a section where it's mean tweets. When they do mean tweets, we'll just do mean reviews.
Oh, no.
Mean.
I don't want to give those people the light of day.
Good call, brother. We won't say that.
Positive.
There you go.
Positive emails.
Yeah, there we go. I like it.
Uplifting.
I like it.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, thank you guys very much for all the love and support, and we will catch you next time on The Foil. Take care. Bye.
Atomic.